I had a love for music from quite a young age. I used to play a couple different instruments just growing up through school, and always just wanted to know enough of each one to get me by, which I guess is something that's continued to now to today. But it wasn't really until a bit older, and I started buying a lot of records and really honed in my the kind of music that I really worked out for myself that I loved, and a lot of that came from traveling to UK, to Europe, to places where this amazing kind of music didn't really make it in Australia. So I guess around that same time I started DJing, and it wasn't until I was up there playing other people's records that I really got these ideas about the kind of music that I wanted to be making myself. And I guess the final catalyst for that was to see, for the first time, see some of my favourite artists tour to Australia. George Benson, Roy Ayers, Stevie Wonder, some of my favourite soul artists all happened to come through Australia around the same time. And I think for me that was it. Once I saw my favourite music being played live and up close, I just realised that I had to make these ideas happen. For me, the way that I come up with music and songs as well is it's kind of varied. Sometimes I have musical ideas before I have any lyrics or any any content to kind of bolster a jam with. And so sometimes it just comes down to playing around with the instruments, making different sequences, trying things that haven't happened for myself before. And then other times I just have an idea, something comes over me, a concept for a song, or just a couple of lines that to me sound like something that music could work around. And for a lot of it, I guess that's how it happens. You end up with a bit of both. You end up with lots of songs but no music, and then sometimes I'll just be making music with no ideas. And I do find that putting myself, imagining things and putting myself out of my own usual routine will sometimes make songs happen as well. I imagine certain places, or if I was a different person, what would my life be like? A lot of my content comes from those sort of those places that are foreign to my own psyche. My biggest inspiration, there's probably a couple when it comes to the music that I grew up loving, all the like from 70s disco and soul to 80s R&B and funk and boogie. There's a couple of artists and producers that really stand out for me. Obviously one of them would be Kashif. The way that he was able to manipulate soulful music as it was and turn it into something that was cutting edge and interesting, and that's something that resonated with me. And there's also other great R&B producers, Leon Silvers, Jam and Lewis, and even lesser known ones, such as Gary Taylor and even like Luther Vandross, some of his more poppy stuff. It all just resonates with me so much when it comes down to building songs. The sound palette is something that also I try to really rely on for inspiration. All these instruments have their own sort of vibe and their own story, so if you can come up with a good way to use those, normally you're onto something quite quick. My biggest project at the moment is Silver Linings. We've just recently finished our first album, and we're already part way into the next one. I guess outside that, for me, it's more so about building other artists that I see a lot of potential in at the moment. There's a couple that I'm working with, and I can't name names just yet, but in terms of adding to the catalogue of Golf Points and other labels and projects I'm involved in, there's definitely a few things that are going to be happening soon that have a bit of my sound and a bit of my input, but for the most part is something really fresh that people haven't heard before, because there's lots of it out there. top records I'm vibing at the moment. I've been listening to a lot of sort of older disco stuff, like early 80s disco funk. I used to listen to so much of it, and gradually it's gotten later and later. So there's a few gems that I've picked up in that sort of era lately. One of them would be I found Positive Force's full album for the first time quite recently, which sounds crazy. But hearing that album in full on Sugar Hill Records, it's quite an early production. It's just incredible. It's slick, and it has little sort of moments of almost UK jazzy vibes, and still obviously like almost a hip hop element as well. So that's one of my favorites. There's a late 80s Norman Connors album I'm really feeling. It's called Passion. Obviously Norman Connors is an amazing musician and producer and composer, but to hear him go smooth, most people probably wouldn't be enjoying that, but for me it's a pleasant surprise. And another label that I've been sort of gradually collecting some catalogue from, I guess that fits into my top 3 vibes at the moment. There's a label called Waylo, which was run by a dude named Willie Mitchell. Very much like, I guess, an independent label, a real independent soul sound, and they were giving a lot of formerly large artists an avenue later on in their careers. So I found that really interesting to find, artists like Ann Peebles and Otis Clay, big soul and blues artists that are still being given a shot to make a record later in their career. And for that, I find the label's very interesting and diverse.